Welcome back to the GnaanaDeeksha program. I hope you've taken a short break and you're all set to listen to me. My name is Gracina and I am a teacher of English at Shamirpet Boys. Before I get started, I'd really like to thank all of you for watching my last program and giving me very good feedback. Your feedback indeed made me improve. Thank you very much. All right, so you already know what the session is all about. You already got that on your slide saying it's about sentences. Yes, that indeed is the topic of my session. Now, if you're wondering how important is a sentence in English, some time ago we had a session on verbs and the facilitator told us that verb is the heart of a language, of a sentence, yes? But I'd say now sentence itself is again a heart of English language, or in fact any other language, as you may say. Right, so these days I've been, when I was working on my content for this session, I was wondering how soon is a child exposed to the concept of a sentence? Yes. So when a child is born, a child is exposed to different sounds, exposed to different words, yes? And then I was wondering how soon is the child then shown a sentence? And I'm fortunate to have a 5-year-old daughter at home, and she these days is doing the role play of a teacher, and I am her only student in the school. So she keeps teaching me a lot of rhymes, and that's when it struck to me that yes, sentences are exposed to children right from the very beginning. They get to see sentences only when they come to school. Even before they learn what is A for apple, B for ball, they even, they're exposed to sentences because these sentences are already there in the rhymes. Yes? Right. For example, if you say, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. Or, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Right? All these are sentences. Yes, and that's exactly what our session is all about. But how different is it from these rhymes? Well, let's have a quick look at our objectives for today and understand what these sentences are all about. Yeah? So, today's session is all about trying to understand what constitutes a sentence, know the different types of sentences, practice the rules of subject-verb agreement. Yes? So, if I say, let's understand what a sentence is, let's have a look at the slide to see what a sentence is. So, does sentence mean anything and everything? Well, let's have a quick look here. Session 2 welcome sentence on. That's a little confusing. Is that a sentence? Well, a group of words arranged in an order to make complete sense is a sentence. So, sentence doesn't mean any set of words. Okay, it doesn't mean anything that you just write, a group of words that you write. But a sentence is a group of words arranged in an order to make complete sense, right? For example, the sentence that I meant was here. Welcome to a session on sentence. Yes? Yes, that makes perfect sense. All right. Now, let's take an example of a sentence and try and understand what constitutes a sentence, okay? So, I have a sentence here, which is, the birds are flying where? On the ground? No. In the sky. Right. Does this make sense? Yes, of course. So now what constitutes a sentence? A sentence is a group of words, like we already know, and we also heard what are the parts of speech, right, already in our grammar classes. So a sentence, yes, has subject, it has verbs, it has nouns, it has pronouns, it has, auxiliary verbs, it has so many things, right? Yeah, so primarily a sentence has, something called a subject, and it also has something called a predicate. Okay, so what does it have? Here, the birds are nothing but the subject of a sentence. Now, what does a subject mean? Subject is the crux of the sentence. Who the sentence is all about, what the sentence is all about. So, this sentence, what does it talk about primarily? It talks about the birds. So, that's the subject. The rest of it is the predicate. We clear here? Alright. Now, when we know this, subject and predicate are the two primary things of a sentence. But that doesn't stop there. Okay? This is one of the sentences that I spoke about, right? But sentences are of different kinds. Yeah? And there are different kinds of sentences. And again, when you frame them, you should frame correct sentences. Yeah? So, when you say you should be able to frame correct sentences, one important concept that I'm going to talk about in today's session is where the subject has to agree with the most important part of the sentence, which is a verb, the heart of a sentence, right? Which is a verb. So, we are going to also talk about agreement between the subject and the verb. Okay? So, that is another concept that we are going to look at. Alright. So, if you have a quick look at the slide here. Yeah? So, I already told you a sentence has a subject and a predicate. And it's extremely important for the subject and the verb to agree. And these sentences are of four kinds. The declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. So, these are the four kinds of sentences that we have. And it's important for us to understand them. So, let's have a look at each of these sentences one by one now. Okay? So, let's look at the declarative sentence first. Right. So, what does a declarative sentence say? A declarative sentence makes a statement. Okay? It ends with a period. A teacher needs a sense of humor. So, a declarative sentence is nothing but a sentence that is a statement. For example, it's quite sunny outside. I want to go on a long drive. I am hungry. Are you? No. Okay, it's too early for lunch, I guess. Right? So, whatever I just said are all declarative sentences because they are all statements. Yes? Now, going back to my, to my thought this morning, which I said, children are exposed to sentences right from the very beginning. And I was talking about rhymes, right? So, if you look at that, you also have another rhyme, which is chubby cheeks, dimpled chin, rosy lips, teeth within. Eyes are blue, lovely too, mother's pet, is that you? Yeah? They're also short sentences, though not complete, right? Alright, so let me also tell you I'm very, very happy today. So, I just gave you information, right? Now, that's another declarative sentence. Okay? Yeah. So, we are exposed to this kind of sentences every day. And it's important for us to remember. Now, another thing that we should remember when it comes to a declarative sentence. Now, this is also a declarative sentence. I'm informing you something. Alright? It starts with a capital letter. Yes? And it ends with a period, which is a full stop. Right? We tend to get a lot of I've been correcting a lot of papers, when I'm in the school, and I've corrected a lot of them. Something that I noticed is we tend to write small letters at the beginning of the sentence. Please remember, we have to start our sentence with a capital letter, and we need to keep a full stop at the end of the sentence. And once there is a full stop and there is a beginning of another sentence, it's important that we start it with a capital letter. Right? Okay. Let's move on to the next sentence, which is now the interrogative sentences. Okay. Now, like the word says, interrogative, yeah, which is interrogation, questions, yeah. So, these types of sentences are nothing but sentences that ask questions. So, if you look at it, primarily you have two types of questions. One, on this side, if you see, you have WH questions, which talk about who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, these sentences, these questions, okay, these words, they expect a bigger answer, okay, not a yes or no. But then there's another set of questions, right, where the answer that is expected is either in a yes or no, an affirmative or a negative answer. Okay. Are you happy? Yes, I am. Are you hungry? No. Do you want to listen to more of my sessions? That's great. Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment if you have said a yes. All right. Yes. So these are interrogative sentences. Now let's try and look at these questions. Let me ask you a few questions. How many bones are there in a human being, an adult? 206. Yes, that's right. Who is the father of the Indian Constitution? Yes, you're absolutely right. That's B.R. Ambedkar, right? And let me ask you a riddle here. What is it that's very easy to get in and very difficult to come out? Which most of you always get into, okay? My students of my school, yes, very good at it. Which is trouble. Very easy to get into and very difficult to come out. Okay? Alright. Do you know what the Pythagoras theorem talks about? What is it? A square plus B square is equal to C square. Oh my God, I heard so much of it in school. Yeah? When is the Hindi Divas? Do you remember? We put up a lot of charts and we did a lot of skits on that day. You're right, September 14th. Let me ask you, where was Sri Krishna Deva Raya born? Can you think of him? Well, who is he? The father of Telugu, right? Hampi. Yeah. Okay, my last question. Why? Let's look at why, the last one. Okay. Why is the large intestine called the large intestine while in length it's actually shorter than the small intestine? Yeah? That's a question for you. Find that answer out and give me your response. Okay? Give it to your teacher when you're back from your vacation. Alright, so that was our interrogative statements or sentences. Now the answers to these, complete answers to these are actually declarative sentences. See the connection? Very simple. Yeah? Right, moving on from here, let's look at our next set of sentences, which are imperative sentences. Now what are imperative sentences? If you look at the slide closely, you realize that they are all to do with instructions. Okay? Now, instructions, you have a lot of rules as well, right, in the classroom. Did you all put up your classroom agreements in your class? Yes? Do not make much noise, do not throw paper, do not litter, right? Ask questions, please ask questions. Yeah. Now, one rhyme that comes to my mind while I talk about this kind of sentences is 1, 2, buckle my shoe, 3, 4, shut the door, 5, 6, pick up the sticks, 7, 8, lay them straight, 9, 10, a big fat hen. Yeah? So, these are again instructions. If you look at the rhyme closely, these are again instructions. So, what's very interesting, why am I talking about these rhymes right now, is just to tell you that these kinds of, the 4 types of sentences have already been introduced to us right from the beginning. It's just that because we did not know about it, we did not know, oh, this is an interrogative sentence, or this is, an exclamatory sentence, or this is a declarative sentence. Yes. So, that is something that is, food for thought. Yeah. Right. So, what other rules can you think of? Yeah. For example, at home, now you all are at home. It's important, for you to stay safe. So, I'm sure your parents give you a lot of instructions. Yeah. Please switch off the light. Okay. Switch off the fan. Yeah. Because you do not want to waste electricity. Okay. Please do not waste food. Please don't use, your mobile phones too often. You're already using it for your, activities to do on the Oaks app. Apart from that, it's not for PUBG. So, do not play PUBG. Yeah. Another game that my son tends to talk about all the time is Free Fire. Yeah. So, do not spend too much time doing that. Yeah. Please, please spend time interacting with your family members. Build these relationships. A very good session that we had before my session 2 days ago. Human relations. Very, very important. Yes. So, these are all. So, what most of the sentences that the madam used were more of imperative sentences, asking us to build those human relations. Right? Right. Let's move on to the next final kind of a sentence, which is, right, exclamatory sentence. So, what's an exclamatory sentence? Well, exclamatory sentences show strong feelings. The exclamatory sentence always end with exclamation mark. Okay? So, they always end with an exclamation mark. Right? For example, what a lovely weather. Not right now outside, because when I came driving, it was very, very warm. Yeah. But then these days, I've been noticing that towards the, second half of the afternoon, which is like post 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, it's actually getting very pleasant. The weather's actually changing. So then, what a lovely weather, right? Ouch, it hurts. Yes, you say that, right? Ah, it's hurting. So, ouch, it hurts. Ouch, then the exclamatory mark. Oh, I just hate this. Oh, I just can't take this anymore. Exclamatory mark. Right? So, these are the different kinds of sentences. Now, I kept talking about these 4 sentences, yes, and I also spoke to you about something where I said the subject needs to agree with the verb for the sentence to be correct. Yes? So, we are now going to look at that aspect, okay, where the subject and the verb needs to, okay, both the subject and the verb need to agree. Okay? So, talking about that, yeah, so one important aspect is only when the subject and the verb agree is when the sentences become correct. Now, what is the simple rule that we need to remember is if the subject is singular, then the verb is singular. If the subject is plural, then the verb is plural. Simple. That's it. If you remember this, that's the basic. If you remember this, you can definitely, get your subject-verb agreement right. But then again, there are some rules in this which make it a little difficult for us. But if you know these rules as well, I'm sure everything will be very easy for you and it will be a cakewalk. Yeah? It's as easy as you trying to understand what is balancing when you're learning a, motorbike, or when you're learning a bicycle. If you know how to balance yourself on that, then you're for sure going to learn your motorbike as well. If you know how to ride a bicycle, definitely you will be able to ride a bike. Yeah. The only thing then you should remember when you're riding your bike is what's the first gear, second gear, third gear, right? But if it's something like a kinetic Honda or a scooty, then super, you don't have to worry about it. Right, so going back to my subject-verb agreement. Yeah, so an example that I can talk about right now is India is my country. So if you look at this other statement, so India is the subject here, okay, and is the verb. Subject is singular, verb is singular. Now, we are Indians, right? So when I say we are Indians, here we is plural, the subject is plural, hence the verb is also plural. It's as simple as that, okay? Now, there are certain things that we may tend to get confused with, okay? So let's try and understand, all right, what are these personal pronouns and how these verbs also change when it comes to these personal pronouns. So please have a look at this slide here. Okay. Now, if you look at this slide, you see that you have the personal pronouns. Well, so the personal pronouns here is in the first person, the second person and the third person. Now, just to help us understand that, all right. Now, what's the first person? First person is I. First person singular is I. First person plural is we. Second person is you. You can be plural or singular. The third person, he, she, it, or they. They're all third person, right? They is plural, he, she, it is singular, right? It can also be plural at times, right? Now, things change, verbs change when we talk about this. So, when I say I, all right, so I am running. You, the single. So, if it is you, one singular person, still the verb here changes to are. Okay, just like they are running, you still changes to are. So, this is something, this is a concept. If you remember this, you don't have to worry much. All right. Now, when we talk about he, since it's singular, is running. Now, they are running. All right. That's in the present tense. What about the past? I was running. You were running. They were running. He, she, it, or he, she was running. Yeah. So, that's the be form of it. What about the do form? Do has again do or does in the present tense. Yeah. He, she, it does. Okay. I do. You do. We do. And then again they do. That's again in the present tense. But in the past tense, they did, she did, he did. Everything's the same. Now, has and have again in the present tense. Yeah. Is I, you, we, they have. He, she, it has. Okay. For example, I have, okay, I have gone there. Okay. Whereas she has gone there. Okay, that is something that you need to remember. Okay. Now, while I talk about all of this, something that you always have to remember is please do not get confused with singular verb and singular noun. There is a difference. Okay? The student works very hard. The students work very hard. Okay? For example, if you look at this, all right, the students, let's write the same sentence down for your convenience. Let's write a set of nouns first and then a set of verbs which will help you. So because here it gets a little tricky, we have to be a little careful. Okay? So if we are able to understand the basic difference here, I'm sure it's not going to get difficult. Right? So let's write a few nouns here. Boy, bird, girl, chair. Okay? Now these are all nouns, right? Right. So let's write a few verbs here. Okay? So let's write a few verbs, which is walk, go, sleep and stand. Right. So usually we tend to get confused here. When we add an S, remember in our session on verbs on the 16th, yeah? Our madam gave us a lot of tips on how to make it plural, singular nouns and plural nouns, right? Also the concepts of how it becomes, the plural, right? So remember, when you add an S at the so if the noun has an S which makes it plural, okay? So if I add an S here, it becomes plural. The noun becomes plural, many. Yes? Bird becomes birds, girl becomes girls, and chair becomes chairs. So this is many, plural, right? Let's look at the same thing here. Let's add S here as well and see, right? So walk becomes walks, go becomes goes, the S at the end, sleep becomes sleeps, stand becomes stands. Okay, so I have added S here, right? So if I add S here, that does not, so here, hear me out really clearly, the adding an S to the verb does not make it plural. So here is the trick. The trick here is, if an S is added to a noun, it becomes plural. But if an S is added to a verb, that actually becomes singular. Okay? So hear me again. If an S is added to a noun, it becomes plural. But if an S is added to a verb, it becomes singular. So, you cannot say, because this is plural, you can't, and it has an S, you can't say boys walks, because this is actually singular. You will say boys walk. Okay? So it's boys walk, boys go, boys sleep, boys stand. Do we understand that now? Is it clear? Yeah? So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a singular subject, then it will take a singular verb. If you have a plural subject, it takes a plural verb. My first sentence that I wrote on the board, the birds are flying, because it's plural. Birds, plural, and the verb here is also plural. Yeah, but there are certain rules that we need to keep in mind when we talk about the subject-verb agreement, and let's have a look at them right now. Okay, so the first rule that I have here for you is, if you look at the slide, two singular subjects are added with the word and, then it becomes a plural, then it takes a plural verb. Simple. So you have two singular subjects and you connect it with the word and, then you need a plural verb here for that sentence. For example, right. So I said two singular subjects, right, added with the word and. So Swapna, one singular subject, and okay, is the verb. Sorry, so and is the conjunction that is connected to Pushpa. So Swapna, singular subject, Pushpa, singular subject, and they are connected with the conjunction and. So what does it take? Which verb does it take? Does it take a singular verb or a plural verb? I said if two singular subjects are connected with the conjunction and, then it takes a plural verb. So Swapna and Pushpa are my friends. Simple. So if you look at the slide here also, the boy and the dog are waiting at the corner of the road. The boy, singular subject, and conjunction, the dog, singular subject, are waiting at the corner of the road. Now, what is rule number 2? Okay, so rule number 2 here, again, two singular subjects are connected with the word or. Okay, then it will take a singular verb. Now, what does that mean? Okay, let me write here. So, let's say one of my friends is waiting at the bus stop, calls me up and says, you know what, Gracina, I'm waiting for you at the bus stop. And I have to send somebody to pick my friend up from the bus stop. So, I will tell her either Shalini okay, don't worry, I've spoken to Shalini and Ranjit, so either Shalini or Ranjit is coming to pick you. Okay, so what am I saying here? So like I said, rule number 2 is singular subject again, but then they are connected with the conjunction or. So it will only take a singular verb. Make sense now? Yeah? Simple, very, very simple. Let's move a little, to a little complicated sentences now. Okay, don't get scared, that's fine. Right. Yeah. Okay. So, rule number 3, whenever you have words where you use the subject as nobody, somebody, everybody, anyone, someone, no one, everyone, they're all singular. Okay, so these are all singular subjects and they will always take a singular verb. For example, everyone is present in the room. Everyone is present in the room. We need to remember this. Nobody is absent. Somebody is going to speak today. Everybody is going to take a break soon. Anyone can get some. Anyone will. Or anyone is. Okay, anyone is, free to say something. So all these are singular and they will only take a singular verb. Okay? Right. Now another thing that we also need to remember. Okay? So when there are two subjects and they are connected by either or neither nor, the verb agrees to the subject closer to it. Now what does this mean? If you look at the sentence, neither the students nor the teacher wants to go on the trip. Look at the next example. Neither the teacher nor the students, which is plural, want to go on the trip. Okay? So, let me write that sentence down for you here. Okay? Neither the watermelon nor the apples. Okay? Now listen. Neither the watermelon. Watermelon, yeah, is one fruit. Nor the apples, which is plural. Yeah? So when I say this is plural, now what should come here? What verb should come here? Is or are? Well, because the verb, whichever is closer. So if the subject is closer to the verb and that subject is plural, then the verb becomes plural. For example, neither the watermelon nor the apples are available in the market. Okay, so I have sent somebody to the market to get some fruits and this is what they come back saying. Nothing's available, no fruits at all. Neither the watermelon nor the apples are available in the market. But if we interchange this, watermelon comes here and the apples, they swap positions, then we will say neither the apples nor the watermelon is available in the market. See that? So you see the change? Yeah? So the verb agrees only for this rule. Neither nor, either or. So the rule here is the verb will agree to the subject that is closer to it. Yes? That's the rule. Right. Now what's the next rule? Let's have a look at it. Yeah? We have a lot of subjects. We have mathematics, which ends with an S. We have civics, which ends with an S. We have news, what we watch every day, which ends with an S, right? We have dollars, measles, yeah? These are all subjects that end with an S, but that doesn't make it plural. Okay? They always take a singular verb. For example, mathematics is an interesting subject. I can't say it's a tough subject because my maths sir may be upset with me. Yeah? So I will only say mathematics is an interesting subject and I find it very difficult to understand. Yes? Right. I find civics very interesting. So civics is an interesting subject again. Yes? Right. So dollars, okay? The dollar is increasing. Okay, $300 is a huge amount for me. Yeah? Right? So, what is the news today? What are the news? What is the news is what we say. Yes? What's on the news as well is what we say. Right? Okay, let's move on. What about the next one? Now again there are some subjects which are scissors, glasses, jeans, yes, tongs, etc. Now these are all considered plural. Now why are they considered plural? Because all of them are in two parts. So if you look at the scissors, it has two parts. If you look at the jeans, it has two parts. Yeah, trousers also two parts, right? So they are considered plural and that is the reason why we have a plural verb here. For example, my glasses are dirty. The scissors are on the table. Yeah, you can't say the scissors is on the table. The scissors are on the table. It's considered plural. This is a simple rule. You just have to remember these. If you remember, you get the answer right. That's it. Simple. Yeah. Right. Now, what about the next one? Now, we have collective nouns. I'm sure all of you know. Flock of sheep. Yeah. Army of ants. Right. So, these are all collective nouns. Now, all collective nouns, team, army, flock, herd, yeah, they are either considered singular or plural. Now, depending on the situation, if you take it as a plural, then it takes a plural verb. If you consider it as singular, it takes a singular verb. The team is practicing very hard. The team are waiting for the finals. Both are right, depending on the situation. Yes? Okay, we're moving really fast, I guess. Let's look at our next set of sentences. Now, sometimes sentences start with the word there. Okay? Now, there itself, okay, and then it usually the verb, it follows the subject. But in sentences where you have sentence which starts with there, then the verb comes first. So, whenever you have the verb that comes and the subject follows it, you have to look at the complete sentence to decide whether it's singular or plural. So, if you have, a lot of pencils with you, there are many pencils on the table. If you have one pen or one pencil, there is a pencil on the table. Depends on the complete sentence. You can only decide it only when you read, when you know the sentence. Only then you can decide if it's a singular verb or a plural verb. Yeah? Now, when you talk about units of measurement or time, 3 hours, okay, 1 hour, 3 hours, 2 hours, okay, waiting for somebody for 3 hours is not a good thing. Yeah, so 3 hours is a long time. Yeah, 6 liters of water is a lot of water to drink in a day. But can you have 6 liters of water? Do you drink a lot of water every day? You should drink a lot of water. Do you know that? I'm sure you're keeping yourself hydrated these days because it's very warm. And if it's not warm, it's becoming very humid. So you're actually sweating a lot these days because it's getting very humid towards the afternoons. Yeah. All right. So it's very important. So you need to remember that the singular verb form is usually used for units of measurement or time. Yep. So moving on from here, our next rule is when phrases come in between a subject and a verb, the verb must agree with the subject. Okay. Come what may. Our subject has to agree with the verb. Our verb has to agree with the subject. If there are any phrases that come in between, it does not make, a difference to the verb. It still has to, agree with the subject. For example, if you look at these sentences again on the slide. Yeah. So the session that was taken by the two teachers was interesting. So the session is the subject here and the subject is singular, and that was taken by the two teachers is only a phrase that is being used, okay, in between. So that does not change the verb. So the session is singular, the verb was is also singular. Now if you look at the next sentence, my sister as well as her friends. As well as her friends is a phrase that comes between the sister. So wants to come home for dinner. Yeah. So when I say my sister, I'm only referring to that, and that's why I say wants to come home for dinner. As well as her friends is not, dependent on that verb. So that's a phrase that's coming just in between. Similarly, if you look at, another sentence there, the movie, even with all the big actors. So whatever is underlined, even with all the big actors, is a phrase that is being used in between. But that does not change. Though it has a plural in it, that does not make a difference to the verb here. Okay? The movie, even with all the big actors, is boring. Yeah? But I thought Bahubali was very, very interesting. It had all big actors. Yeah? Very few movies which have big actors is a flop or, is boring. Yeah. All right. The people who were after him are now arrested. So the people here is the main subject. Yeah. Who were after him is a phrase that comes in between. That's why are is the verb that is connected to the people. Yeah. People plural. Are is again plural, the verb plural. Yeah. So people who were after him are now arrested. So that is the sentence. Right? Okay. So technically, if you look at a grammar book, it has about 20 rules in it. Okay. One of the rules that we can talk about is one of my friends. Most of us say are. Okay. But one of my friends is a doctor. So one from among all my friends. So I have 10 friends. One person I'm talking about. So one is a doctor. Right? So that's another rule that we can talk about. So if you go on like that, there are quite a number of rules, about 20 of them primarily. I tried to, within this amount of time, period of time, I thought I'll cover as many as I can, which were 10, and that two most important rules. And that's what I brought in front of you. So it's time for the project work. Yes? So here you go, my students. Make a list of all the rules of the subject-verb agreement with personal examples, right? And write examples for all the 4 types of sentences in both the positive and negative forms. Okay? So here, remember the rules. You may have to give, your personal examples. Look at, if you know more rules, you can add them, to this list. And also write examples of all the 4 types. What are the 4 types? Declarative, interrogative, imperative, and exclamatory. Right? These 4 sentences, write them both in positive and negative form. Yeah? Imperative, maybe you can look at something like how to prepare tea. So there you give lots of steps, right, in how you prepare tea, right? So that is something that you can share. Or you can share any recipe with us, something interesting. Yeah? Right. So before we complete, I have one story, like, like the last time I told you a lot of stories, and I think some of you really liked it. Thank you for your comments. Yes. So I'm going to tell you one last story before we close. Yeah? Right. So this is a story about a group of frogs. Okay? When do you see frogs outside? During the rainy season, right? Yeah? So there were a group of frogs in a forest, in a deep forest. And these frogs wanted to relocate. They wanted to move from one place to another place. So while they were trying to relocate, they thought to themselves that during the day, if we move from our place to another place, the birds will see us, the snakes are there, we will be eaten. Yeah, we'll be hunted. So let's travel only during the nights. That's what they thought. Now what happened while they were moving in the night? 2 frogs happened to slip and fall into a deep pit. Deep. Quite deep inside, yeah. Now, what happened? The other frogs saw these 2 frogs and started worrying. Oh my God, we lost 2 of them. But they knew for sure that these frogs cannot jump outside that pit. So what they thought to themselves is, if we wait and help them, because if we help them, we may fall into it, one. Or by the time they try and come up, it'll be day. We will not have time. And then we'll again be hunted. So let's leave them here and go. Okay. Now these 2 frogs, they tried their best. They were trying their best to jump out. One frog jumped and it tried and tried and tried. It gave up. Because while it was jumping, there were very, very, sharp weeds, sharp, sticks there, which were actually hurting the frog. So it thought to itself, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to be able to jump out of the pit. I will try and I'll be here and I'll die. Or I'll just wait for God to have mercy on me. Yeah. Now the other frog, it didn't just want to let go. It said, no, whatever it is, I have to try. Let me try. It started jumping and jumping and jumping. And then when it was jumping, it saw that right above the pit, it saw that group of other frogs telling it not to jump. Don't jump. There's no point. Why are you just trying to, waste your energy? Just don't try and jump out, because you can't come out. They were actually shouting that. But then the frog looked at them and it was so happy that, they're standing waiting for it. It tried and tried and tried and tried, and then it was able to come out of the pit. And all the other frogs were actually shocked. And they were surprised. My God, you made it. And then it came out. It was so happy, and it thanked every frog that was there. Now the frog started wondering, well, we actually wanted to leave it and go. And this one is actually thanking us. We were asking it to stop jumping outside, and this one is trying to actually, this one is, congratulating us or thanking us. It's, all very grateful to us. Well, do you know why the frog was actually thanking them? Because the frog was deaf. So because the frog was deaf, it couldn't hear the negative comments that the other frogs were saying or passing. It thought that when they were shouting back at the frog, it thought that they're actually encouraging it to jump more. And it jumped and it came out. And it was successful to come out of the pit. Right? So, what's the moral of the story now? Yes? When there are difficult times, many people will discourage us. You'll have zilch, number of people, zilch number of people, or you'll have very few people who will actually motivate you. But many people will say, no, you can't do it. You just can't do it. No, you can never learn English. It's very difficult. Oh, it's a complicated, complicated language. So many rules. You'll be boggled down by these rules. But trust me, don't listen to that. Be like the, deaf frog and you will definitely come out of it, and you will definitely be an ace at it. Okay? Just like me. I was not born with English as my mother tongue. I learnt it through my journey. You can learn it as well. Yes? On that note, my students, my friends, thank you very much for your time. It was wonderful taking a session here, and I thank the society for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you very much. Stay safe and be happy. Thank you.